Two, one. Well, have you ever thought about investing or maybe going on vacation in Northeast Florida? Do you even know what's in Northeast Florida? Well, today we are going to talk about all things Northeast Florida, and I have my friend Trudy here, who is someone who specializes in that area. Hey, Trudy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jennifer. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Northeast Florida, I know that's the area you cover, and I know you're going to talk to us in a minute about what cities are in that area. But first, can you tell us, who you are, a little bit, about your real estate journey, how long you've been in, and maybe something about you, your family, what you like to do, any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. My name is Trudy Padilla. I am the team leader of the True Dat Can Sell That team here in Northeast Florida with Keller Williams. I am both a licensed real estate agent and a licensed mortgage loan officer.
Hmm.
I spent 25 years in mortgage lending, running large fulfillment centers for Countrywide, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Things like that. And then I started my real estate career about 10 years ago. So I am dual licensed, I do both, and have spent a little over 30 years
Wow.
in both capacity. Yeah. So,
Wow,
or
that
one
gives you
capacity or the other.
yeah, that gives you a really unique perspective on what's going on and everything when we talk about the real estate market. That's awesome. I love that.
That
So,
is.
tell us about yourself. What do you like to do in Florida?
My family all lives here, my immediate family. So I have two adult children, and my husband is also my business partner. And so we do work together, and and are very glad to have our kids nearby. My son works for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so we are big fans, and so we get to spend a lot of hot days watching football that will hopefully turn into really good football here soon. We have, and my daughter is a school teacher here, and this year she was named Teacher of the Year. So we're super proud of her. And so that's we spend a lot of time with the family. I also host a true crime a book club here in the historic district at a museum on the second Tuesday of every month. And so that's been a lot of fun to do over the last few years.
Oh my goodness, what a fun life. Oh my gosh. So you do go to some of those Jacksonville games, yes?
We do. We go really all of them. Yes.
And for people who don't know football, Indianapolis and Jacksonville are in the same AFC South, which is wild to think about because however they place those is very odd to me. But nevertheless, here we are. And I always am so jealous when I see those Jacksonville games and people are like in swimming pools. I'm so jealous. I tell my husband we are going someday. I don't know. Um, like
Be
your
careful.
stadium is awesome.
Well, we're in the process of having a new stadium built because it's be careful what you wish for, Jennifer, because the pools are really the only way to watch a game in August, September, even October in Jacksonville because it is brutally hot and we have no shade. So I get jealous when I see stadiums that actually have shade cover
Okay.
and sometimes
Okay.
even snow. I just think that would be a much more delightful way of watching that game.
Okay, fine. You're right. Because I hate being hot and we have a climate controlled thing. So yeah,
Beautiful.
maybe we are lucky. I never thought I'd say that for Indiana, but here we are.
That's
Anyways, okay. So you have an exciting life in Northeast Florida. So when we talk about Northeast Florida as a whole, can you tell us some of the cities or areas that includes?
Oh, absolutely. Northeast Florida, the two communities that most people will recognize is Jacksonville and St. Augustine. So those two counties, Duval County and St. Johns County, represent, the largest port, and they're very large. Like I think it's 800 square miles each. Just those two. And then just south of us is Palm Coast. And then we have the St. Johns River that runs along the west side of Jacksonville and St. Augustine. On the other side of the river is Palatka, Orange Park. I cover that whole area. So it works out nicely when people are relocating because all of these communities are very different. And I've lived in all of these communities, and so I'm networked within the communities, and so I'm very, very familiar. I know, the sort of the history, and I just know I have contacts in all of those areas. So it makes it easier when somebody is coming to look at homes. They think maybe I want to live in Jacksonville, or maybe I want to live in St. Augustine. St. Augustine is a little bit unaffordable for most people right now. So knowing what the alternatives are, and there are really good alternatives that will help keep your price point in line, is part of why I offer the service that I offer in all
Yeah,
areas.
definitely. Yeah, for sure. Well, when you mentioned that they were large counties, um, isn't there some sort of statistic about Jacksonville? Like it's one of the largest like land
Mhm.
mass. I don't know the exact
It
statistic,
is.
but it's huge,
We're
right?
yes, right. We are the largest city geographically in the contiguous 48 states. The only other city that I think is Anchorage, Alaska, that is larger in landmass, but they certainly don't have the population, of course, that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh
So
my gosh.
I refer to Jacksonville though as sort of a city of little towns because it's so large. What you have are a lot of really, sort of hubs that function a lot like a town, in there. So like Riverside, Avondale, and San Marco, and then the beaches, and Mandarin. So different areas like that. Knowing those areas, knowing not only the market of those specific areas, but also, again, if you're moving to Jacksonville and you think, well, I'm going to work downtown, well, knowing where you should live for the best commute and experience is important.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why someone like you is important, someone who's the expert in the area. So, talk to us just a little bit about what's going on in the real estate market kind of in Northeast Florida. I know there's different price points in different towns, but what's generally going on?
Yeah, so right now, Northeast Florida, much like the rest of Florida, has a little bit more of a sluggish market right now. We have it's still a little bit of a seller's market in many areas, but it feels like a buyer's market everywhere. So we also have something interesting going on with different property types, condominiums specifically, because there has been a lot of legislation put in place for these condominiums, particularly ones that are close to the ocean and are a little bit higher. They really are not selling as quickly as there's a high level of inventory. And so that's something also it's important to hire an expert in that area because understanding what's being required of the condominiums, understanding what you're reviewing when you're looking at the structural surveys and the reserve studies, that's important. At least, to have an introduction to what you should be seeing, because if you don't, the potential that you're faced with a big assessment in the imminent future is high, and so that's an important piece that we're
Well,
struggling with now.
and you know what? Talking about condos, I really believe that from what Florida is experiencing with the condos and initially kind of starting with that one Miami collapse, maybe
Mhm.
whenever it was a few years back, this has moved up to many other states because here, for example, you know, um, lenders want to know, for example, if a buyer is buying a condo, want to know what the reserves are. They want to know. And as a lender, which you are, because I find that interesting, I'm on our HOA and, you know, if you don't have enough reserves, they are less likely to lend to the client. And so, yes, you're talking about the special assessments and things like that. So I think what's happening in Florida, they're very cautious all over the US now. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's just a
Well,
unique
you
problem.
You
Yeah.
brought up a really good point because lenders always have a higher level of review of anything, right? Of an appraisal, of of the condominium, that sort of thing, because they have, they've got an interest in the property when they lend on it. So they're looking at things that I think buyers don't realize they should be looking for, right? So I think that this is a good thing. It's a good thing for the real estate community in whole. It's good for the lenders, but it's also good for the buyers because don't you want to know that you're living in a place that is not only well maintained, but can remain well maintained? And one of the features of that reserve study that I really like is that they forward project, which is not something that has been done or that I've seen done very often. They look at, well, yes, here these roofs are going to need to be replaced in X number of years. So they include that in rather than, okay, the roof needs to be replaced, so now everybody chip in, $20,000.
Right. And
Yeah.
like you said, but if you would have asked me information like this a few years ago, I wouldn't have known, honestly. Just because, I don't, and they probably have always been doing these studies for on reserves, but I know a lot more now. And because, I've had clients who are wanting to buy condos because it's a lower price point. But yes, I think condos you said are sitting longer in your area. They're sitting longer, I think, in a lot of areas. So
Yeah.
that's very unique. But so, in Northeast Florida, of course, you're talking Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and other little communities. What's the average price point? And is there a big difference between, for example, St. Augustine and Jacksonville?
Yeah. So there really is. So we talked about, St. Johns County or St. Augustine, and that's where I live. I'm in St. Augustine, and I love it because it's great. It's like being on vacation all the time. But it is very popular, and the median price point is about 550,000. So it has often been an attractive place to retire, but the price point, the escalation in the price point in recent years has pushed that a little bit outside of the grasp of many people who are retiring. Part of that reason is that we have the number one school district in the state, and we have for about the last 12 years. We've had a large amount of growth in the northern part of St. Johns County, which is right up against Jacksonville. So commuters can live in St. Johns County with the great school system and still commute into Jacksonville. So that's really what has driven those price points up so much, and just the fact that it's a great place to be. But the median price point just north of us in Jacksonville and south of us in Palm Coast is about $350,000. So it's a really big difference. And then right just west of us in Palatka, the median price point is about $220,000. Yeah. So it really, you can see that we have a really big difference in price points depending on where you go. And I have to tell you, Palatka, there's nothing wrong with Palatka. I mean, it really is it's just a sleepy town that hasn't really gotten a lot of attention yet. But I think that that's probably going to change. It's right on the St. Johns River and has some really, really beautiful property.
Wow. So it sounds like there's an option for a lot of different price points. Here in Indianapolis, our median price point in the city is 260. So, that doesn't sound too far off, which is surprising. When I think of Florida, I always think of everything's expensive,
Yeah.
compared to here. So,
Right, right.
that's really good. And you just mentioned something I was going to talk about, people who are retiring. So, as you know, there's a large group, a population in the United States that's either downsizing, retiring, and a lot of them are going to Florida. So what areas are you seeing people move from to Florida and to your area? Are you seeing certain areas of the US or certain cities?
Yeah, so we have always seen a lot of people relocate from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that area, a little bit of the Carolinas. And of course, during the pandemic, we really saw a large increase from the West Coast, California, Washington, places like that. Um, I don't know that we're seeing as much of that right now, so I think that that was just a particular moment in time.
Okay.
But that's yeah, that's those are the areas that we see the most.
Okay.
To be
And what type of, well, when we think of people downsizing, I think of ranch homes and communities, maybe with patio homes and things like that. With Jacksonville having such a large land area, are you seeing a lot of new builds in that area? And specifically, when we're talking about people who are downsizing, maybe any communities that are 55 and up, or what's going on with new construction as far as downsizing and retiring goes?
Yeah, so we have so much new construction. As a matter of fact, we have a community here in northern St. Johns County that for many years was the third largest, fastest growing planned unit development in the nation. There's about 12,000 homes, and they're nearing the end of that construction cycle now. But I mean, 12,000 homes, so you can imagine that's a little town in and of
Wow.
itself. So, so yeah, and so that's a very popular thing right now are these larger communities that have then communities within them. And
Yeah.
so Nocatee is the community that I'm referring to. They have 355 plus communities within Nocatee.
Oh.
So you can so it really is just a very holistic community, meaning you've got apartments and townhomes and condos. So you've got places for people who are, just getting started in their adult life. You've got a lot of family friendly, communities. They've got two big splash water parks and, all the things that go along with that. But then of course you've got the 55 plus communities. And so
Okay.
that's a big, that is something that we see. Not all are as big, have scaled that big, but we have quite a few in Northeast Florida that are communities that are just like this. And we have more 55 plus communities than than you would even imagine. It really is because of the fact that people are retiring here. One of the maybe most popular ones is the Margaritaville, which is
Oh.
right. It's actually closer to Daytona, but it is in that little Ormond Beach area, and I do cover that area, and that's a lot of fun. It's a pretty cool community.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yes. Is
And
that condos?
no, they are mostly sort of patio homes, and
Oh,
honestly, they are so fun. It just driving in there, it's like you've moved into it's like Jimmy Buffett just is playing is on heavy rotation the whole time, but they're cute. They almost look very Keys, right? The colors, but they're mostly like patio homes type, right?
mhm.
But they are all built with, the fact that this is an aging population that's moving in there. So all of the doorways are larger, the stoves and the oven and the microwaves and everything and dishwasher are just easy to reach. The showers are all wider and have handles. And so it's already they're already thinking ahead about the fact that, at some point your mobility might not be as great as it is today, but you don't have to move out just because that's happened.
I love
They,
that. That must be really fun to go visit and sell and
uh,
stuff.
I absolutely is one of my favorite places. They have a private beach club. So they do, it's not right on the beach. So they have regular buses that will take you to and from the beach, drop you off. They have little cabanas. It's fabulous. It's the way I want to retire.
I was gonna say those people people are living the life. Okay, okay.
So much fun.
Awesome. So let's talk about what industries would you say are in your area that maybe bring people from out of state or even, to your area from in the state? Are there certain industries or universities or things that are major in the city that bring people there?
Oh, for sure. So in St. Augustine, it's tourism, of course. But in Jacksonville in northern St. Johns County, the biggest employers are the Navy. We have two large bases here, so the Navy has always been a good partner to our city, and we certainly have a lot of military here, which is great. Military that are both active duty, but of course, if you were stationed in Jacksonville, the chances are really good that you might retire in Jacksonville just because our cost of living is lower. We don't have, state income taxes. So we have actually all of our taxes are really low, the few that we do have. And so, lower cost of living. And by the way, we have 14, I think I've forgotten to mention this. We have 14,000 miles of coastline in Northeast Florida. Yeah. Yes, I know. We have a beach and we have two rivers. And so the amount of waterfront property and the amount of outdoor activities that we have make the lifestyle here really appealing. So we have that. We also have a really large healthcare network or presence here. And therefore, we have both insurance and medical care. So those two are actually really big employers. A lot of insurance companies either have headquarters or a large presence here. And then we have one of the first Mayo clinics ever was founded here in Jacksonville. And so that's a very large presence here. We have an MD Anderson. We've got two really great children's hospitals. And then the Baptist Health Network and St. Vincent's, which I think has changed names now, but in any event, so that's a big, and then the financial industry. So, a lot of technology and finance, and so the technology related to finance.
Okay. With all of those things, military, hospitals, universities, and the finance tech, does that open up opportunities for investors? For example, I'm sure you have lots of traveling nurses, so maybe that opens an opportunity for midterm, short-term rentals, and maybe even with the military, because I do know sometimes they're stationed there for 3 years. I know you mentioned that a lot of times people retire there, but some people opt to rent
Mhm.
versus buy in those times. So wondering if there's a lot of opportunity there for investors.
So yes and no. In March of 2022, 60 Minutes did a report on just what you're talking about. And of course, that was the height of the super sellers market. And they came to Jacksonville to point out the amount of investment money that was coming into our area. And what that was meaning is people who were renting at a certain dollar amount, it was now being increased to places that were not really affordable for them anymore. And that was really the point of the episode. But we during that time frame, the amount of investors that came into our area was overwhelming. I mean, there were times where we were at 40, 50%. There were markets that had 50% investors purchase during that time frame. It was a lot. And as a result, I think maybe they overbought. And so investment opportunity right now there's always opportunity, always. But we are not necessarily a market that is ripe with opportunity, just because I think it's been overbought just a little bit. We also have a very strong short-term market here, of course, here in St. Augustine because of tourism is such an important part. And so that's been a little sluggish as well. And so we're just not seeing as much of that. But does it matter? There's always opportunity, right? Just because we're not what we were in 2022 doesn't mean that there is an opportunity, because it's where you very well pointed out, traveling nurses with, construction. We have a lot of construction in our area. And so, that being able, a lot of companies will bring in their own construction workers from other areas as they need it. And so there's definitely opportunity for that. And of course, military, and we do have several universities here, Flagler in St. Augustine, University of North Florida, and Jacksonville University up in Jacksonville.
Awesome. What about first-time buyers? I know you mentioned in St. Augustine that higher price point, but of course in Jacksonville it was a little lower. Are first-time buyers having to go out just a little bit further? Like for example, if they were wanting to look in St. Augustine, they're going to have to go out a little bit further, it would seem like. Is that right?
Yeah, we definitely are seeing that. So to the west, south, a little bit north, right, is where the first-time home buyers can more comfortably purchase. That being said, we do have a lot of new construction still happening here, and a lot of the production builders have recognized the fact that this is an issue. So we do have a lot of townhomes going up, and that's a great place for a first-time home buyer to step into, right? A brand new townhome is really a perfect purchase for somebody who maybe hasn't ever owned a home before, and especially if they're a little bit younger. The maintenance is virtually none, and so it helps you get acclimated to being a homeowner a lot easier than if you're in something that is a lower price point but more of a fixer-upper.
Right. They're building those like crazy here, the three-story kind of 2 or 3 story townhomes because they can
Yeah.
fit a lot in a small area. And that is a good option. Um, was going to ask you, since you also are a lender, for people looking to move to your area, to Florida in general, are there any unique or interesting or good programs out there for buyers right now in Florida?
Well, we do have some interesting programs that can help with down payment assistance, but I'll tell you what, when it comes right down to it, where we've had the most success in this market is seller paid closing costs, and using those closing costs to help buy down the interest rate, because a lower interest rate is always going to go further for you in terms of managing your monthly payment. It doesn't matter how much you spend on the home, it's the monthly payment that we're looking at, right? That's what matters the most, especially to a first-time home buyer. But well, not especially to anybody, right? I mean,
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
which of us is going, I don't care, whatever, pay whatever. No,
Right.
but that's yeah, so that's where we've had the most success. And with some of the down payment assistance programs, the rate, you get what you get what you get. So there's not a lot of opportunity to adjust those rates, and that it's monthly payment more than anything. And if you can just save up the 3.5%, or if it's a VA, since we do have a lot of military here, that's zero. So, we actually have a closing on Monday where her monthly mortgage payment is going to be less than what she's currently paying in rent. And she's coming with no money to the closing table, period. So,
Which I love because I'll tell you, I've had success with buyers here in Indy with the down payment assistance program that we have. But again, there's pros and cons. Like the interest rate is higher. They have to stay in their home for a certain number of years. There's all sorts of things, pros and cons. We are seeing a lot more seller paid closing costs and, to pay to or to using that to pay
yeah.
down the interest rate, which is very helpful. So yeah, we weren't seeing that as much a few years ago, but now here we are. So that's a good
Yep.
thing for buyers, especially if they're
Yeah.
looking to move to your area, right?
That's right.
Awesome.
And sellers
Well,
are really open to entertaining that right now. And so as long as they do that, that is probably going to be the most bang for your buck.
I agree. Well, it's been so awesome to learn about Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and all the areas you cover. And, if you're watching this video and are interested in, moving, buying a second home over there, retiring, downsizing, if you're getting ready to be transferred there by the military, well, Trudy's the expert and I can connect you. So thank you so much, Trudy. I really appreciate
Thank
this.
you. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.